Hi, good evening, and thank you for joining us on day 263 at Good Governance Yaya, GGY. We are joined today by Auntie Maubrey, Chris, Leisha, Chiranta, and we have Angie over there. Hi. You're in the shot, by the way. You know that, right? People can see Angie, right? No. All right. So actually, we don't have a guest today, and I think it's actually good to have a chat amongst ourselves. No, we have quite a lot to talk about. Generally, when we have a guest, we don't get to discuss the sort of the topics for that particular week. So, Leisha, you put a whole list of stuff together. Actually, I didn't make a slide about the first one. I missed that, or maybe because we have maybe repeated that about law and order, but maybe just talk about it before we get on to the other topics. You want to just go through it?
Just briefly, just running through it. I mean, I don't think you can have stability without law and order, and there has to be the law has to be applied equally. Yeah. I mean, we see the IGP who has been convicted, or in a fundamental rights case of torture, and not just normal torture, depraved torture, being appointed from temporary status to IGP. You have the gold smuggling MP paying 10% fine and back in Parliament the next day, then off to Dubai probably to collect more gold. He was being given a slap on the wrist with a 1-month ban from Parliament. Then you have that other political connection, that Muzammil's son, who has assaulted a woman, and he was like, instead of being arrested, no, I will come to the police station on such and such a
day. Do we know whether he's still been arrested?
I have no idea.
That story, like nobody is
silence.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, and then of course, let's not forget our health minister, who was, after public outcry, was finally arrested. And I don't think he's seen the inside of a cell, because he immediately had a medical condition that required him to be in hospital, and his doctor recommended home cooked meals. So in fact, on our tax money now is paying for him to sit comfortably in a hospital when he should be in jail. He has blood on his hands for the people he has murdered through his corruption. And in the meantime, the government keeps bringing more and more rules, the laws, the Anti-Terrorism Act, Online Safety Bill, Broadcasting Bill, Rehabilitation Bill. We don't need new laws. What we need is for the existing laws to be applied, and to be applied equally. So that's my piece on that.
Right. So, Chris and I were part of a group that was advocating for economic sort of reform. Chris has subsequently bowed out. And on that particular group, we actually can't bring up issues of law and order, because they're like, no, this is not you can't bring it up. In fact, when Angeline posted something about the malnutrition issue, even that was deleted, and basically, apparently it's not an economic issue. And today, one of the admins posted an article about how Sri Lankans are the happiest in. Did you see that article?
I've seen that.
And apparently the entire thing had been like a Facebook poll. And the funny thing is, I looked at the stats. There are 7 million Sri Lankans on Facebook. I mean, we don't. I mean, there's no. I don't. You might know stats about internet penetration in the villages and so on, but it's probably very, very urban.
Very low. I mean, you don't get internet. Right. Even if you go just beyond Colombo, Sidhu.
Yeah.
Still, internet connectivity is, you need to put a router on top of a tree to get the signal.
Right.
So basically.
Yeah. So there is no internet penetration. So in a country with 7 million people who are in poverty, who have fallen into poverty, and then you have 7 million people on Facebook, I'm sure there's a Venn diagram where they intersect, but I'm sure, those stats don't sort of add up.
Obviously when you take a poll from, the online forums, The people who are actually suffering, they don't have their money to go to the internet and voice their discontent even. I mean, they don't have food at home. I mean, you think they have data to go online?
Exactly. Ani, what do you think that we can really have any kind of stability until we have justice for or accountability, properly established law and order in this country?
First of all, I don't think we'll ever have stability the way we are going in everything. Not just the law and order, not just, you may have the IMF coming later. What are these people doing? They are bringing all these laws to suppress the people. Yeah. Now, even the online safety bill, the president can have 5 commission in that
which he appoints.
Commissioners. And do you know, to get a vote, if there are only 3 people on that particular day, 2 people can find, yes. So that's the law that
so it's
we
a
have.
Majority of the quorum.
Majority, who is present on that. There's no quorum.
Day.
If there are only 3 people, that's it. That's it. So that's the type of a law that we are having in this country. So there's absolutely no, you can't even talk of a law and order. Yeah. There's nothing other than the new IGP going around and trying to collect druggies. Yeah. Look at the murders yesterday.
So I saw Deshabandhu also commenting on this, underworld activities. I saw him making a statement about the, sudden, underworld activities, and he was saying some are drug related, some are, vengeance. So, I mean, what is this? He's giving answers to the question. The question is about not what that was. How did those people get the weapons? How did they manage to do it? How did they manage to get away? Where were the cops? I mean, when you go in Colombo or in other areas, you get cops, patrolling. What were the cops doing? Why couldn't they catch them? How did they get the vehicles,
But we know, Nuchiranta, that's misdirection. This whole Yukti operation is misdirection.
No, this is Yukti. I'm talking about yesterday's killing in Matakulia. How they came, they just came to a shop and they killed. Yeah. They killed with like 2 or 3 places and nothing. They just.
I mean that is law and order at a street level, at a community level.
Yes.
I mean, we also talking about law and order in terms of justice for the disappeared or the Easter bombings or the scams and things like that. Because that is, there's no fear, Auntie, right? There's no fear that accountability will be delivered, that justice will be delivered. So if there's no fear, why would they edit their behavior or change the way things are done? Because there's no consequences, right? There are plenty of crime. There are no criminals, right? Everybody gets released from cases. I mean, street level crime, absolutely important. I mean, I think that is an issue with like policing and the fact that we have a
massive budget for it, and what are they
right, defense and all of that.
And the police spokesman comes on TV and tells from January so many people were killed. Yeah. Like 268, 200. And he just giving the numbers. Right. Is this a country? Yeah. I mean, is this how it should be? Yeah. When in Canada there was a murder in that particular house, there were 3 minutes silence in the parliament. 3 minutes silence in that parliament. So can you imagine? That is just that some fellow has killed, that's another story. But that is how they treat. And look at this country.
Life has no value.
Absolutely no value.
Depending on what level you are.
Well, there's another aspect to it. So you're talking about the murders, right? That is people actually deliberately killing people. The traffic deaths in this country, for a small country of 22 million, I think we have something like 7 to 8 deaths a day. Motorcyclists. A day. Yeah, I think we have like something like 3,500 traffic deaths a year. Right? Something like that, right? It's not a small amount, right? It adds up. Although we don't hear about it on the news every day because it's just become completely, statistic, right? Can I just finish my point? Yeah. The point is, the reason we have that is we have a police force less interested in traffic laws than actually like jumping at you and try to catch you crossing lanes and try to take money from you, right? I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like if you're out on a Sunday night and if you've been drinking and driving, you can pay and get away, right? Do they ever start? I mean, I see bussers and who are like breaking lanes and lane discipline and all of that, So if we had law enforcement the way it's meant to work, then you can reduce traffic deaths. I mean, these are senseless deaths, right? Like people dying on the road.
I mean, these traffic incidents have been a focal point of my activism. I have always told the cops. I mean, I went to direct a traffic, and I spoke about blind spots. You know what his response was? Mona blind stop.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we have uneducated officers trying to do road safety. They have no qualifications. Perampanayagam was one of the most qualified DIGs, traffic DIGs in this country. I don't know if he's living. He called me to his house and he explained to me how these deaths are happening and everything. I mean, those type of people, though they are old, their opinions should be taken. I mean, we have road systems in this country where potholes are created, and until somebody falls and dies, nobody is going to fix that pothole. This is the reality. I mean, RDA goes and, cuts a line. I mean, they scrape out the tar and they cut it's like a ditch. Like it's a 90-degree.
And generally they wait until the road has been fixed to come and cut.
They cut and also we have to remember the reason why we are having these road accidents. We have from the last Parliamentary Select Committee with regard to road accidents, it was clear that the vehicle number of vehicles in the country are 400% than what the road system in this country can handle. And when you have that much of vehicles, you get what you call vehicle frequency increases. That's when you stand on a road, the number of vehicles that goes by increases when you have more. And when you have lower engine capacity and trying to overtake with the lower engine capacity, you can't, and the time is long, the exposure to the other side is long, so you get three-wheelers and so many other vehicles.
I think we picked the wrong topic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an ex.
So now the MPs might say, this is why we asked for 4,000cc Saharas. Sahara Jeeps,
The thing is, we need to have, I mean, everybody will say, a road development, they put the tar, water board comes and digs.
Yeah, Chirant, we're sort of going off the point now, but the point is that if we had law and order the way it's meant to work, right, then they will. Right.
If two people going, two companies being charged for murder, for road accidents, for not maintaining the road, then the whole thing will turn the other way.
I don't know whether that'll ever be possible, but my where I'm coming from is from the law enforcement side of things. I mean, if traffic laws are properly enforced by the police, right, but without expectation of
They look the other way, people are going
you
through
can
red
get
lights.
the driving license, paying underhand, you can get the driving license without doing the trial. Right. So how are we going to fix this? I mean,
we're talking about issues with these lower rank of police officers now. Implementation. How can you expect when the person at the top itself, right? So I think even that. I mean, sometimes you wonder what is the point even in having. I think we have a guest coming up soon. It's something that I'd like to ask him. What is the point having a human rights commission in Sri Lanka if a policeman accused by found guilty by court of torturing somebody inhumanly, right, can be appointed to the post of IGP? What messages goes to the people below him, even good officers?
But one thing you notice with this administration, like optics doesn't matter.
No, I know,
optics doesn't matter. Like it matters to people like us.
No, just think.
Right,
just think. You're Deshabandhu. You're Deshabandhu. I'm a equal. I'm also contesting for this. I was also in line for this position. I'm a good guy. I have not done things like Deshabandhu. Right? I don't do the political masses bidding. I don't do it. But I am qualified for this. But I see what happens. Right? Deshabandhu does everything that the politicians want, so he's rewarded. What message comes to me? And what about the junior guys who are watching this? who can see this.
Right. So this is the
Yeah, so we have to. It has to be handled at the top itself. So for that,
Actually, it goes above it.
from president itself.
No, I mean even the law and order minister.
No, yes, Tiranas, yeah.
On camera said that he paid a bribe
Yeah.
to the
To the
terrorists.
yeah.
To prevent
now
the
he's
North from voting,
yeah.
and the man is now minister.
Right. So that's why people have been asking for system-wide change, right? Like it needs
At
to
every
be
level.
it needs to be like community-wide, society-wide. Like people have to buy into the concept and the notion of change, which was there like a couple of years ago, but now that is dissipating, right? Because everything that's going on, that's sort of dissipating. But I think we all agree around the table that we have an issue with law and order in this country, right?
Exactly.
So rather than
That is
fixing.
not fed by the minister.
Right. So rather than fixing these issues, they're bringing in the Anti-Terrorism Act,
They're
the
bringing
Online
laws.
Safety Act, the Broadcasting Bill, Rehabilitation Bill, basically to suppress people, kill any sort of dissent and things like that.
When an election is looming, so you can see the intention.
Right, exactly. And an election that he's trying desperately not to have, I think. We'll get into that a little bit later. But let's actually talk about, what's happening here? Let's actually talk about, has it changed? Okay, let's actually talk about the economy. The IMF economic recovery and stability, right? I mean, the whole notion of stability, we know certain people are stable, right? And those people are of a certain social class, right? Certain political class, and people who are very much linked to the existing political culture and the setup, and they actually don't want change beyond, like superficial kind of things that we are seeing, and they're fighting very hard to make sure that it stays the way it is, right? So I think we get accused of being Jeppo or Sajabe and all that because we are criticizing the system, and we are criticizing a man who embodies that system more than anybody else, right? Ranil Wickremesinghe, I think, more than anyone embodies this political culture, right? The old political culture which we want to get rid of.
Like an entitlement to it because he's from a particular class.
Right, exactly. And then because we criticize him, people automatically label us like Jeppo or Sajabe or whatever, like we are working on or NGO, or that you're taking NGO money, or we're trying to discredit, or we're trying to ruin the recovery and all of that. But before I ask you the question, like, are we stable? I mean, is there an economic recovery that you can see? The point I want to make is, now Verity Research today put this article out, their research out saying Sri Lanka failed to meet 33% of IMF commitments due by end February. Okay, that's 33%. Now, we were told that this IMF is critical for the recovery, right? We were told, right? Now, what's misleading about this headline is that 36% of the KPIs that they were supposed to meet are unknown. It's in the article. So if you're only reading the headlines says 33% of IMF commitments not met. But actually there's another 36% which is unknown, whether it's met or not, right? Verity can't verify. So actually it's really like
31% met.
Right? So if the IMF is that critical to our recovery, shouldn't the government take a keener interest in making sure that they meet these?
I don't think there's anybody in the government who even can understand what they are asking for.
Right.
Or otherwise, what's the point? How many president wanted the other parties to come?
Yes.
The political parties, he had invited few parties only. I was told he had not invited everybody, so that they can agree to.
No, he had invited everybody. Auntie, not everybody went. Only Sumandiran and a few went. Sajabe refused to go.
Only Sumandiran went.
Yeah, I think NPP didn't go either, right?
No, NPP didn't go. They refused to go. No, and I watched news yesterday, and some of there are other parties also in
some
the
small.
They were not asked to come. So the question is, what they're trying to do is to get these people also to come and agree to whatever they are going to agree, so that later on they can say, but you all were there, you can. I was listening to Sumandiram. He said there's a list that they wanted. Because until he sees that list, they were not given that particular list. Until he sees that list, they will not know, they are not will.
Well, in fairness to the opposition, why should they go? They were not part of the negotiations, or they were not even, that agreement was not even tabled in Parliament.
Exactly. So why should, that's exactly the question. Why should they go? They have agreed to something. Are these people going go and say yes to it? No. So it's quite right that these people didn't go. I think Sumantiram would have wanted to know exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
So that's it. But the issue with IMF now, these conditions are for us to get the third installment, right? We have got 2 installments so far. But my worry about IMF that nobody is really talking about is restructuring of the loans. Now see, this country went on for all these years. They borrow today and they had to pay, then they borrow from somebody else and pay that loan and the interest. Then they borrow again, and this roll was going on and on and on. They were rolling this, and it came to a point that they couldn't do it anymore. That is when we declared bankruptcy. Now, for us to survive in this country, we need foreign exchange. What we are getting is from garments and tea or whatever that we are exporting at the moment. So there is nothing new that we are doing to earn more dollars within these 5 years, or all coming after garments, nothing. Of course, tourists are coming, and that's a small amount, I think. I don't think there's a huge amount of
At our peak, tourism earned about $5 billion a year. At its peak, $5 billion.
Now, the question is, if we are to survive, we will have to go to the market to borrow. The only way that we can go to the market to borrow is, now we have these people from whom we have borrowed these countries. Those creditors will have to agree for a haircut, which means that out of the capital, say 20% off, 25% off or something like that, to let go, and you reschedule your loan repayment. Like if it is 10 years, you repay within 20 years. So then we will be able to survive. Then we can go back to the market and start borrowing. That's the only way we can survive. We have to go back, and because nothing else has.
So that was the point of the IMF loan. I mean, it's not a big amount.
IMF's loan is just bridging, till we.
And also credibility to be able to go to the market, I think.
To get the credibility to go to the market, we had to restructure these loans from these creditors. Now, my understanding is that China has point blank said, no, they're not giving a.
In fact, Peter spoke about it last week.
Yeah. No haircuts. They're not allowed because they cannot. The rule about that is because they had to treat all the creditors equally. If there is no haircut from China, other people also cannot be given. So we have not done the restructuring yet.
No, because China hasn't come to the table. I mean, they've had meetings, but China didn't want. They didn't agree to a haircut.
Without the restructuring, how are we going to manage this country from this income tax that we are getting? No, the money that we have is from because we are not paying the loans. So if this doesn't happen within next couple of years or this year, so far we managed because the India supported us. And they have their ulterior motive. Yeah, they get. So they are the only people who supported us. What is going to happen to this country if we do not restructure these loans? How are we going to survive? We might have a situation worse than 2022.
I don't think so, Auntie, because Diana Kamake said you're going to export ganja, no? So we're going to bring. That will be our way out. That is the plan. So.
No, I'm seriously thinking about it. I'm telling you frankly, I'm scared for the people in Colombo, from 5-star hotels, they can say it is stable. There is stability. Go down below that.
In plain English, what has happened, Chaminda, is the problem that we had.
It's just being
As we kicked, the bucket has been kicked down. That's what has happened.
down the road.
The can has been kicked. So what we have is false stability.
No, but also what you described creates an environment for things like SOE restructure and sale of national assets, right? So they will say, look, because of what you're describing, right? The creditors haven't come to the table. We need a way of raising capital. So we need to dispose of these assets, reduce costs, and there will be a fire sale before an election can be held, so that the cronies and friends can pick them up at bargain basement prices. We know what's happening with Sri Lankan, right? I mean, it's so transparent to us what's happening with Sri Lankan, and some of the other SOEs as well, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they are sometimes. I mean, because nothing happens in good faith, I even question whether they're even trying very hard to restructure these loans. Right? I mean, what did Peter say in Greece, or was it in Iceland? He said the government like told the bankers, listen, you got it, all the creditors, you got to take 70%, you know, and they were forceful and basically got what they needed. That's why they were able to come out of bankruptcy early.
Agamras are forceful with the EPF.
That's all they did. And adding to what you said, Chaminda, I was going in a three-wheeler. And this three-wheeler fellow was talking, this is the public. He was watching, he had watched the meeting with the minister about Air Lanka.
Yes.
And he was condemning Air Lanka. I would never want to go in a Sri Lankan airline flight. You know what he said about Air Lanka.
Yeah.
You know what this three-wheeler fellow was saying? Madam, what they are doing is, they want to put it down so much, put it down, so that the chairman, the soft logic guy, he can buy the...
No, he can't. I don't think he can.
I'm telling you, this is what the...
But the people
they think.
No, but he's partly right in the sense that, Auntie, this is probably done.
Yeah.
Because these rats being on planes, these are all new incidents now.
Everything that's going on, there are deals within deals.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's possible that they're trying to lower the price down and bring the price down.
That's so that this fellow can buy.
No, he won't be able to buy. He's
chosen guy
highly
will.
leveraged.
Some chosen guy
yes, I mean there must be a deal in the works for somebody.
And the deal just got sweeter because the loss, $500 million loss.
So we're going to come
So, yeah.
Sorry. Come to that. But Sri Lankan is problematic. I mean, we'll come to it because we have a slide on it. It's in Lisha's thing. But yeah. So in terms of the IMF, I mean, I don't think we are seriously, because it was a governance diagnostic report. There was anti-corruption measures. There was sort of legislation that needed to be brought in for asset recovery. I mean, there were so many things in the body of that document, in the IMF agreement itself, that
I'm guessing those have probably not been, the ones are either not met or unable to quantify.
At least we are not seeing it, right? We are not seeing
No,
it.
but what I'm saying is that maybe the percentage that...
I mean, what the people need to understand is this. The reason why they don't want to give the creditors the haircut and, for them to take some, dent, the banks to take some dent, is because they know that those people, the people who have invested, who have given the money and creditors and all of these, they will want, system change. They will want the change. So they will want, accountable people at, running the country. Otherwise, they are also going to be paying part of the problem. So they are going to be faced with hardship from their end. So they are going to lose their incomes. So that is why I think they want to protect those, that section of this economic system, so that those people will not want good governance and these people can, just continue this old trend.
Actually, they are protecting the investors here, the bondholders.
Yes.
They are being protected. I think they are earning about 30% on those bonds, which no restructuring, nothing, absolutely nothing. Those bondholders earning at the moment about 30%.
Yeah. And actually, just before we went bankrupt, they got paid also.
They got paid.
There was a tranche that there was a tranche that was paid. So then we saw the Royal Thomian last week, and we saw the president there, making a speech about. I think he was invited to give a speech. He was very happy that people were holding beers because you were paying VAT and things like that. And then there was a tweet which you have highlighted, which I'll read out, because I think it demonstrates the lack of empathy that this ruling political class have for the suffering of the vast majority of people in this country. They just watched a video of the president at the Royto, and he said, "I'm glad to see you all having a beer in hand. You paid 18% VAT for that. Now let's sing Bivane the Vadakasuliya." Okay, that's basically what I mean. That's why I said earlier, like, optics to this government doesn't matter, right? Leading by example doesn't matter. Otherwise, would he go on 15 trips in a country that's bankrupt? Would he take so many trips? All these ostentatious, like, Independence Day celebrations to military parades and things like that in a country which is struggling, where people struggle to make ends meet.
Korea or something, no? Where
Right.
school-
Optics matter, right? I would be embarrassed if it was me in that position. I would be embarrassed to be even standing at a parade, knowing that, like, a majority of the people in my country that I'm the president of is in pain and
he
suffering.
could have
right?
gone down in history as being a president who actually brought in austerity on the side of the government, lead by example. Instead, they are busting money. Where have they cut down on government expenditure? It's gone up.
Absolutely nothing.
It's gone up.
He only spent, I think, on the Queen's.
So from us around the table, like, do you feel that the economy is recovering? Do you personally feel? What are we, like, middle class?
Yeah,
Right?
we can afford to
Class.
eat and drink and put a roof over our heads because we are privileged and able to do it, but we are just a minority.
Right.
But I find it shocking that we are a minority who actually care about the people who can't.
The people.
That speech at the Royal Thomian, that fellow who stood up and said, he talked about that. I don't want to mention his name, but disgraceful man. He should be ashamed of himself.
A very sycophantic type of a thing. Sorry, Auntie, you were saying.
The people I always say the people who sits in 5-star hotels and talk about stability, and those who go there to these people, because they can go to a supermarket, food is available, there are no queues, everything is fine, hunky-dory, but just go below that. The people who can't have a meal, who can't have 3 meals a day, I think that number has increased, that poverty level. I know personally the people that I'm helping in a little way that I can, no food to eat. They have no money to go and buy. They go to the government hospital, but they had to buy the medicine from outside. Where's the money for them? Because having a government hospital doesn't mean anything. They go, they may see that, but the medicine you have to buy from outside. This is not it's the stability that we are talking about.
See, this is the thing. So the story of stability, the narrative that they spin about stability, and the ground reality don't reconcile. Right? There's a chasm between what they say and what's actually happening. And then you can see it, right? The way things are sort of panning out. I will just put this story that came out yesterday, if you can see it. So a report basically stated that this was a report done by Ministry of Health, what was it? It was done by an international agency. I can't see the name of the agency here. But it basically said it was to do with, I think, women mainly, that 410,000 girls are suffering from malnutrition, right? And I think this was a report up to mid-23 or something like that. Immediately the government came and said, no, he rejected the report. Basically just came out and said, no, they rejected the report.
What they do,
So reject, minimize. Yeah.
Also at the UN, they rejected the report. No, so it's
Meaningless.
easy.
Yeah, so that, yeah.
They are not accountable at all. So then maybe reject the report.
Yeah.
And that's it.
So shooting the messenger, right? I think at the health ministry, when there was a whistleblower, right?
Dr. Sanjeeva.
Dr. Sanjeeva. You want to just mention that?
Yeah, Dr. Sanjeeva, not Dr. Sanjeeva, what is his name? Chamal Sanjeeva.
Yeah, Chamal San. Yeah.
And he highlighted in a press conference about the malnutrition. And he was interdicted and suspended.
Yeah.
Shoot the messenger.
Yeah.
And on saying that he has no right to talk. I mean, it's like if there's a dengue issue, our doctor's not going to talk about it. If there's, it's just.
Malnutrition is malnutrition.
And it's a huge issue.
Yeah,
you'll have
that's a
future
huge
stunting,
issue.
you'll have.
That's a huge issue, and these are the people who will grow up to be adults in this country.
Yeah. So, Peter mentioned a story last week about how they help a school in Kotahena, where with a I think lunch packet or something, they give lunch every day, and most of the kids take half the lunch packet home. So because they have a sibling or a parent or something. So that is the ground reality.
That's you were saying in Colombo.
Yeah, I mean, I support your right to go to the Royal Thomian and have a good time, but I think sort of inviting the president and then the comments, the insensitivity of those comments, I think is a slap in the face of like his own citizens who are suffering. So so when we point these things out, we get attacked, saying, "Oh, you're being negative." But then, as activists, I think that's what we are, right? Citizen activists. It's our duty to keep holding their feet to the fire, right? Pointing these things out, because we are not a government, we are not the opposition, we are not an NGO, we are not some institution. We are activists. That's what we do. Like bring attention to issues that need it, right? So maybe that's why we get attacked all the time, because we are counter to the narrative that they want to spin about stability. And in terms of stability, what I have to say is the ground reality versus the narratives don't reconcile, and it will manifest in an election. And that is what they're dead scared of.
Yeah. And the other thing is, have you seen about what is happening to the paddy cultivation?
They're not buying it.
The government just says buy it at 105, but those days the government bought the paddy and it was sent to the auction, or it was sold from there. Now government is not buying any paddy at all, and these guys are told you have to sell it at 105. Nobody is buying because rice is a mafia now, no? They're the big fellows. They're not willing to pay them 200, even 95 rupees for that. And those farmers are saying, for one thing, they didn't get all the fertilizer that they needed. They're not even getting the crop to live for a couple of months. And they're on the road with their paddy. I mean, this is we should have in this country, they are feeding us. That's the level of people. If you look at them, they are in that mud whole day in the heat and all that. And these are the people actually we should be sitting and worshipping those fellows, because they are feeding us and we are not even helping them to buy that paddy.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that in this country, because they are treated that way. They are treated that way. People are not going to go for it. One of the things, maybe I'm a bit out of this, agriculture, our people don't want to join agriculture because it's a very hard way of
Well, we will get to the man who helped collapse the agriculture sector, right? It affected everything, including egg production. We were fairly self-sufficient in certain things like rice, eggs. We were self-sufficient, right? Now we are importing eggs. We are selling egg is how much? 65 rupees an egg, something, right? 6 rupees an egg, right? I mean things, and actually eggs being that price is also one of the reasons we have malnutrition in this country, because that was one of the cheapest sources of protein that we had in this country. So when I heard that rather ridiculous joke at the Royal Thomian, and people were laughing at this, and I just thought, who are we as a country? Who are we as a society?
When the president says like that, he's not a standing comedian or somebody.
Right. So we have two countries actually. We have the country of the haves and the have-nots.
Exactly.
Haves have captured all the instruments of government, right? Everything that happens is basically a way for money to get transferred from public into private hands. The banks, Chris, right? The banks. public banks. You want to talk about the public banks?
I mean,
Please,
we
go
talk
ahead.
about it.
Go for it.
Yeah. I mean, we spoke about it before. So I think we all know, we've spoken about it before. Bank of Ceylon, the chairman, up till very recently, and I think I'll tell you why I think that changed also. The chairman was Ronald Pereira, President's Council. I think very few activists like us knew that Ronald Pereira was a working committee member of the UNP. How ethical is that? I mean, you'd expect someone who's a President's Council to think twice about taking a position like that. Let's leave aside him. One of the people, I mean, there are so many people who have bad debts at Bank of Ceylon. One of them is a financier of the UNP, Daya Gamage, who owes almost 1 billion rupees. What do you think are the chances of Daya Gamage paying that money back when its chairman is one of the working committee members? This wasn't highlighted until very recently, and I believe the only reason he resigned recently was after the president, Ranil Wickremesinghe, appointed him into the steering committee.
Election. I can't say re-election because he wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. So his election campaign, presidential election campaign, to the steering committee. Correct? He was, and that is a point I think activists realize that this guy is still chairman of Bank of Ceylon also.
Now, can you tell me who is the current chairman, the new chairman?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. So he hurriedly resigned. And then now we have Kavan Ratnayake appointed. Right? Who is Kavan Ratnayake? Sagala Ratnayake's brother. So do you think again there will be what type of we as activists are asking for system change and accountability. What chance do you think that will happen with this? On what basis are they made chairman?
What are their qualifications? To be chairman of a bank?
Right? And we recently saw, the media spokesman of CEB. What did he say about children studying? Why can't they study under the lamplight? Yeah. And then the minister made a big statement saying, he has resigned. And he's made a public apology. Both are lies. He did not resign. He may have resigned on his post from his position as spokesman, but he's still very much an employee of CEB. So that is the first lie. Second lie, that he made a public apology. No, he's written a letter to his superior. And that's a sorry, I'm not sorry type letter. That's not a public apology. So, I mean, we are continued to be hoodwinked, and people like us talking about it. People like to portray us as anti-government, but no, we are speaking on behalf of everybody, and we need more people to speak about this. Speaking about it does not make us JVP supporters or SJB supporters. We are doing this as citizens. So we need more people speaking about these things. It's unfortunate that Ronald Pereira, member of the executive committee of the UNP, working committee of the UNP, managed to continue in that position for almost 1.5 years.
Without anyone
knowing. That's how sad this situation is. This is why more people like us are needed.
We need a more proactive press, I think.
Yes. Actually, I'm telling you, if you look at the press, what they do, and if you look at our cartoonists, what they do, you have a cartoon lined up, I saw. It's perfect. But I'll stop there. But all I'm saying is we need more of us.
I was told, there's a group that we're all a part of. I shared the news about Kavan Ratnayake's appointment. And somebody privately messaged me and said, look, actually, he's a really good guy. I'm sure he must be. That but just optically, does it look right?
No, what is the selection criteria? What is the selection criteria? How was he selected to that position?
Is there ever a selection criteria for anything? You know what I mean? Like, there's no selection criteria because you're somebody. That's how kind of things happen here. But yeah, connections and things like that. But just visually it feels wrong, right? It feels like self-dealing. There's something coming. There's something, or they're preparing for something.
Nepotism kind of thing, no? It's continuing.
It is. It is, right? Isn't it? So, yeah, that is where we are. So we live in 2 different countries, I think, vast majority of citizens live in one country, and then we live in 2 different countries, 2 different realities, right? That is the real. That's why people wanted change. That's why people fought, because it got to a place where everything collapsed. But at least it opened people's eyes and now we need those eyes open. We need that engagement to keep going.
Collapsed because of a conspiracy, right? As per Gota's book.
Wow,
It's not his fault.
We'll get to
But
that.
actually, when you look at the news, I have started looking at the news. You can see people right around the country protesting.
Yeah.
After the Aragalaya, you can't say Aragalaya, but they are all out on the streets. They're all out on the street everywhere. Just one day put Citizen News, because that's what I watch, 7:30, or I watch the Sinhala one, and we are shown every day, every Sunday.
Yeah.
Our
GGY gets covered, Liberty gets covered.
Covered. They cover all that, but see the people on the road protesting for cost of living, and there are universities. There had been pay cuts from the government, certain sectors. For years, they have not been given that. They are all on the road, so they are not putting any.
No, there is a lot of discontent. Yeah.
Except the central bank.
You know.
Yeah, they're
Central bank, except the central bank. They're happy.
They're very happy.
Yeah.
Lowest
No, I mean, yeah.
108,000.
Yeah, exactly. We covered it with Peter last week, so we'll not repeat that.
Can I just mention, before we move on, we talk about these appointments and all, which are completely ridiculous. You have Ratharan being appointed to the
I
head of
have a slide.
You do?
We're
Okay.
going to come to that.
Okay.
You had that. Yeah, I have a slide on that. But so I had this slide up last week, and I thought we'll get Peter's views on it. Pete actually didn't want to look backwards. So he didn't want to talk about the Rajapaksas re-emerging and things like that, and he really didn't want to talk too much about this either. But I think this is an important slide. I mean, this is from the Sri Lankan Airlines annual report. What I want to point out is, under Emirates management, the final year of Emirates management, we made a 4.4, Sri Lankan Airlines made a 4.4 billion profit, because most of that actually comes from ground handling and catering, which is a monopoly, right? No, there's no competition. It's just it's a monopoly. Then you have your flight operations and things like that, which was also making money under Emirates. Then the very next year, after it was taken over by the Rajapaksa administration, where Mahinda Rajapaksa's brother-in-law was appointed as the chairman of the company, the reversal was 13 billion. So we went from 4 billion profit to 9 billion loss. That's a 13 billion reversal.
In 1 year.
Please explain that to me. I mean, even from a corporate, it's very hard to explain. I mean, the only way the only way you can explain it is it's the cost of corruption for that organization. Like, money literally has been taken out of that organization and transferred out. There's no other way you could go 13 billion in 1 year. Even if you tried, you could lose that much money, right? And this was at the height of our tourism boom, right? So when tourism was booming, just look at this chart from when the war ended in 2009. We had almost exponential tourism growth until 2019, right? Exponential tourism growth. Yes, other airlines came into the country. We had more frequencies from the Middle East carriers and all that. But during that time, when tourism in Sri Lanka was booming, look where the airline was going. Look where the airline was going. So, right? I mean, this makes the case for a very good public-private partnership, which is what Emirates represented, right? It was a profit-making. We had the majority stake as a country, 75%. I think Emirates had 25%. So no, Emirates only had 25%, I think. But now the airline has accumulated about $500 million in debt. Now, it's been primed to be sold. And they've just announced that the government is absorbing almost. Government is who? It's us, the taxpayer. It's the taxpayer. We are absorbing all of this. So
the announcement comes in the paper and in the news. The announcement, the press release is, Cabinet has decided that they will absorb
government
this.
will absorb.
The government
Who is
will
the
absorb
government?
this.
It is us.
But it said, we are going to absorb it.
They gave, I think, 500 million.
May I ask the figures?
please go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, it's here. It's on the slide. So if you want to read it, I'll go ahead.
So the government has agreed to transfer 105 million US dollars to the treasury, from the treasury to the debt due to Bank of Ceylon. 12.9 billion to be paid to Bank of Ceylon in rupees. 105 million US dollars in debt due to People's Bank. 18.5 billion in rupees to People's Bank.
All treasury guaranteed.
All treasury guaranteed. This is in addition to 300 million already pumped in to pay off the Petroleum Corporation debt. And the president further proposes pumping another 60 to 70 million in the next 6 months. Now, this is money that could be used to develop this economy, this
Our
country.
health sector,
the
education
poor.
sector, we don't have medicines, people are struggling without food, and we are flogging a dead horse.
And there is a case with Boeing or something, and if we lose that case, that they will pay them off with the sale of what they make out of the sale of this.
Yeah,
airline.
but if you win that case, that money goes to the government, they've said. It goes to the treasury. So, small mercies, I guess.
Or somebody's pocket, we don't know.
or somebody's pocket. Yeah. So, this is the state of our SOE restructure, I suppose. I mean, this is probably playing out across every single SOE right now because everything is earmarked for sale, right? Fire sale. And I'm sure they want to get it done before the elections because once the elections are held, you don't know who's going to be in power, which means whatever control they have, they'll have to do it now and it'll get done with deals within deals within deals. So they are now positioning key people in key positions so that this can be done with minimal hassle to them. But we will foot the bill, just like with Sri Lankan Airlines.
Yes.
Yeah, and what I wanted to know, like, people need to understand in this country, people don't understand that, people believe, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people I know, they are living in this country thinking of going away. I mean, basically leaving the country.
Not all those poor people.
I mean, the poorest of the poor, they think of, being a doctor or an engineer, getting their son to be that. Or the middle class people, they are now trying to get their children, sell the car, mortgage the house, get your child out of the country. Don't make him part of the suffering that they are going through. I mean, that's the mentality. Can we blame them? But then the conspiracies that have taken place in this country. Now, Gotabaya had written a book, we'll come to that later. But conspiracy is how all of our, politicians have time and time again failed the people and not done proper policy. And the whole system of corruption, they don't care. Ranil doesn't care. Mahinda doesn't care. They just let the system go, and at the end of the day, they don't care. As if they are not responsible. I mean, in another country, if Sri Lankan was making losses like that chairman should have been charged for misconduct. This is how you don't give it to a person. He made a $1 billion loss. So what to do? We foot the bill. No, he is supposed to be held accountable for that. How he made the loss? Get the Auditor General to audit.
So basically, you're circling back to the accountability point we were making earlier, right?
Accountability. I mean, if you are to say, because there is so much corruption, because Sri Lanka Airlines is so inefficient, we should sell it, then you will have to sell. Why don't you sell the parliament? While you are at it, please.
Just one more thing I want to say.
Pretty worthless if you take a look at it. Exactly. Just sell them.
Just one more thing. I was watching news yesterday, and apparently they're going to sign an agreement with India for a free trade zone. Some arrangement with India. And they didn't want to put out the document. But they were signing, saying if we put out this document, if they give this document, it will be leaked and there will be protest. Yesterday's news.
This is again like another IMF, no?
Yeah, so
everything is in secret.
There's no transparency in this government anyway, so we know that.
But let's rewind
Yeah.
to when Gotabaya had this all-party conference. Remember when he was president the last few days?
Yeah.
And that is the time that they were trying to go to the IMF, remember? And they had an initial meeting, and there was a argument or a little spat between Basil Rajapaksa and Ranil Wickremesinghe, which was televised.
Yeah.
Where Ranil Wickremesinghe asked him to table the IMF agreement, and Basil Rajapaksa said, no, we can't do it. And Ranil Wickremesinghe was asking for it, why can't you do it? Now tables have turned, and he's doing the same thing.
Are you saying that he's a hypocrite?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
I mean, more than a hypocrite.
I don't think that's headline news. No? I don't think that's headline news.
I think more than a hypocrite, we have to understand these politicians, why they come, like why they change. When they come to power, they change. I mean, why do they change? Because the people of this country, they are very slow to rise up. I'm sorry to say that. They are very slow to rise up. They will only rise up when they have no fuel, no power and everything. And
No, I know. Okay, but people rose up. No? People
Yeah,
did.
people rose up.
People did. It had to
And
come
they
to
went
extreme
receded.
measures. They did.
Yeah, they
But
receded.
right,
Same-
but
same thing.
but hasn't the government done everything possible to make sure nobody rises up? Right?
that is
Yeah. So
true, but-
exactly. So if that's why we have to keep fighting for our constitutional rights, right?
I mean-
you know what I mean? I'm always a little hesitant to blame the people. People can be taken away by narratives. 6.9 million, and then suddenly and suddenly he had to run away, right? Today, somebody you shared a clip of a very kind of Gota speech where he was making these kind of bold statements about how he will never run away from a challenge, and then he was gone. So you know what I mean? I think people are easily misled, carried away. I mean that is, there are playbooks, right, that people can use, like nationalism, like religion, like Islamophobia, things that have been used repeatedly and used successfully to mislead people, right?
And
These are emotive things and all that. People get carried away. So I'm not saying that they're exempt from blame, but it's easy to create narratives, right? Now look at Derana. Look at what's his name? Dilip Jayavir. Now, after doing everything he did under the Gota to bring Gota into power, now he's running a campaign as if like it had nothing to do with him, and people are there attending his meetings.
yeah.
Right? So this is why it's a bit difficult
Again,
to.
people are there.
Yeah.
Just the thing is
And
this.
there are people attending UNP rallies, and there are people
this is the thing.
attending
This is the
meetings
thing.
with Nama.
People don't question. People, I mean, my example.
You're also people, you question.
Yeah, I question, but I don't get the chance. Like yesterday, I went to PETA and I didn't know about Deshabandhu being at PETA. I honestly, I was there to buy some stuff, and then I couldn't park my bike because there was no parking. Right? They had put like a twine wire. All the bikes had to be parked beyond the wire. There's no space at all. I was circling to park my bike. So then I found a location, somebody pulled away, so I put my hand there and I went and I was going, and the bikes were so this thing neatly pushed away, and two police jeeps are covering half the road, the opposite side. I took a photograph, and apparently that has been Deshabandhu who had come, and he had parked.
Come to meet
You're stalking that man.
I didn't know it was him.
But yeah, I mean, so I think the point
nobody there at PETA, so many people, businessmen and all of them,
Yeah,
they didn't question.
Okay, so we are kind of going off the point. Yeah.
Just ask.
What can they do when they identify?
30 seconds after I took the picture, they moved the jeep.
Yeah, but Chirag, what you're saying is it's impunity, right? How they treat how they act with impunity, right? This is all part of the creative change that we have been always fighting for or fighting against. I don't know. But quickly, you had included this about electoral change. I think this is something that has gone under the radar. You want to just talk about it?
I don't know enough about it.
Well,
but-
basically, they
And don't forget, President is also now talking about abolishing the executive presidency suddenly. Why wait till his term is nearly finished?
Yeah. I mean, no, because it's a populist position to take. Nobody will disagree with it, but you have to question the timing, right? So what was it, Iran who said it? He said, yes, we all commit to it, but not now, because the steps that needs to be taken to abolish the presidency, there simply isn't enough time before the next election. So this could be just another ploy to make sure that the election is delayed. And similarly, the electoral change that they're proposing is a mixture of proportional representation and first past the post. I think according to the new system that Vijay Das has tabled to the cabinet, it's 160 MPs will be elected under the first past the post system. That's 160 electorates, I think, that we have, right? and then 65 MPs under proportional representation. It's not a bad suggestion because we put this to pretty much all the political leaders we met initially, including Sajith Premadasa, and he didn't want this change done. He said, no, if you did away with proportion, yeah, he said wave elections can wipe out minorities. Wave elections can wipe out which I think is a fair criticism, but
I remember Mr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa during 2018 or 19. As I remember, he tried to bring a bill that would, change the electoral system so that small parties that, that don't get a large number of votes, like 200, 3,000, I mean, something like NPP, those days, JVP, they will never be able to have their party.
Okay, but irrelevant. So now he's bringing one where it's a mixture of first past the post and proportional, which I think we can all agree might be a good way of doing it, right?
Has he really brought it to the parliament?
He's tabled it to the cabinet stage.
The cabinet has approved it. According to something article.
Apparently, I don't know.
I'd be wary of something like this.
Approved.
A time like this. The timing.
We don't know enough about it. First, the candidate who receives the most votes in a local constituency wins a seat in the House. So, by contrast, PR is the idea that party seats in Parliament should be allocated so they're in proportion to the number of votes cast. So, this actually will solve the problem of sort of removing some element of exorbitant financing from elections. So if you're in a small electorate, you don't have to canvass votes in the entire district, which means you can serve the electorate, and make sure that and then the people will vote you in, which I think we can all agree might be the right way to do it. And then you have the proportional representation as a national number, and then you allocate MPs based on it. But
Chaminda, irrespective of whether this is good or bad, the timing of this on the cusp of elections, something is wrong. If Ranil Wickremesinghe was serious about this executive presidency, abolishing it, why didn't he do it as soon as he took over 1.5 years ago?
exactly.
Right? So if he wants to do it, I think the best thing is to have the elections and let whoever comes into power, let them do it. I think
Without rushing through.
I think the people need to decide about Vijayadasa Rajapaksa for the next time whether they are going to send him to Parliament or not. Because what he is doing right now, I mean, is he a fool? He has a head? No, he's an attorney at law. He's an attorney at law. I don't know if he's a PC or something. He's a PC. So basically, he knows what he's doing. He knows he's trying to take away, the elections away using this, fog. So people of Maharagama and area, people should rise up and say, get out. He should not be voted back in.
I think that goes to not just Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, I think that goes to most people. That's why we're asking for an election.
I mean, these are serious guys.
If we have an election, we will see whether people have learned.
No, these guys should be targeted and taken out.
I agree. I mean, I think now that whole scale change is not possible, we should target the worst of the worst at the next election and make sure at least they are not returned to power.
I mean, targeted as in the political perspective, because they will take that part and say, now my life is in danger. So, the political perspective, targeted and taken away from politics.
We get you. So, now, who wants to talk about Mr. Rattaran? Are you ready to talk about Mr. Rattaran? But I mean, the fact that this man is sitting in Parliament itself is a bit of a travesty, but people voted for him, so he's there. But to give him the COPE chairmanship seems like a bit of a slap in the face to pretty much all of us, right? I mean, he's a guy who's been credibly accused of so many different things, and people. When you talk about this and you think, this is, when you point out this is happening under a Ranil Wickremesinghe administration, feel like, no, but Ranil has nothing to do with it. They said, no, like that, it's got nothing to do with it. Like he doesn't decide who the COPE.
The IGP is not appointed by Ranil Wickremesinghe.
No.
Same as the COPE chairman is also not appointed by.
Wait, let me explain. The COPE thing, maybe there's a system within the Parliament that is part of the legislature. IGP තෙන්නකෝන් is appointed, the name is given to the Constitution. The Constitutional Council is not the person who is appointing the IGP. It's the President who is giving the name to the Constitutional Council for approval. He can't come and say, they approved it, I don't know. That is not that. He is the guy who needs to answer. Even now his supporters, even yesterday were...
These are excuses.
Facts are stubborn.
Like this guy, Rohit Abegunawardhan, what is he doing? He is a crook, called crook, who is trying to create a better image for himself by being a chairman of... I mean, it may be the opinion that, crooks know how the crooks steal, so that is why he was appointed to the...
The big allegation was that he had unaccounted for wealth, about 400 million in unaccounted for wealth, undeclared assets and things like that. And then the 2 officers that were investigating were transferred out and things like that. And he actually was never convicted or anything like that. But then nobody gets convicted in this country anyway.
And in fact, he started life as the driver of Ediri Premachandra, and his daughter has written a scathing article about him.
He came for the interview on a bicycle.
Right, exactly. So I think
he's past the golden years, you can say.
Right, exactly. So the point is, I mean, no matter how much the Ranilists will try to deny the fact, this is a very accurate cartoon, right? We have brilliant cartoonists. I must say, sometimes they do a better job than journalists to clarify an issue in like a single frame. And this is exactly it, right? I mean, this is a president that has been elected by no one, right? He lost his own election. In fact, he came into parliament through the back door. And the only reason that he's in this position is because he was put there by a certain faction. And no matter what dramas they will concoct or create, I mean, sometimes I think some of the things that come out is sort of manufactured to show like there's no link and all that, but occasionally like things will happen. It's just exactly. So under this image leads directly to this image because we have the former president who's responsible for absolutely decimating this country, now rewriting history with a book full of conspiracy theories, and the book is called The Conspiracy.
Trying to rewrite.
Right, he's trying to but he's gaslighting us all, right? With these stories, even Tushan is mentioned in the book. Tushan Gunawardhan is mentioned in the book, and he's admitting that that it happened, that he's right. But then who's the cabinet spokesman right now? Who's the cabinet spokesman right now? The guy that Tushan is accusing directly with evidence. Is this a Ranil Wickremesinghe UNP administration, or is this another Rajapaksa administration? Right? And we see what Ranil Wickremesinghe now does on a political stage, right? You mentioned it, right? Please go ahead and just explain.
So recently, I think President kicked off his election campaign. Yeah, I don't know where the...
On the 10th,
I don't know where...
Kuliyapet.
That's right, Kuliyapet.
On the 10th.
Trust Andy Mowbray to know the details. Anyway, I was shocked to see him. I mean, you'd expect him to speak about what he has done or the little he has done, but anyway, he'll try to sugarcoat it. No? But rather than do that, for the first time, I have not seen any other candidate do this. No Sajith Premdasan, no Andhra Kumar Dissanayake do something like this. Behind this president was a large screen. They were sharing and posting videos for the public to see. One I saw was of something about Andhra Kumar Dissanayake. And then, something directly, she's showing something and the audience, I think, audience started hooting, I think. Then another video which I saw was of Sajith Premdasan going towards GGG in his vehicle and people coming to assault him there. And President Ranil Wickremesinghe says, can these people take over the rulership of the country, the presidency of the country? I mean, this is... To go down to this level,
it's below the belt.
It's not only below the belt. He's also, he may be running. He's our president.
Below the belt is probably not the right thing.
That's not the right word.
His hands are never on. His pants are always falling off.
Always falling off. No, but I mean, even the opposition does not go to this level. So you can see this is probably a president who realizes his last few days these are his last few
Desperate.
Desperately clinging to
attempt
that last straw.
to do this. I was shocked because we have lost a lot of respect for Ranil Wickremesinghe. Some of us have even voted for him many times before, and we are shocked to see the Ranil Wickremesinghe of the opposition and the Ranil Wickremesinghe who's at president, who's done a 180 degree. But even by his standards, to go down to this level, I think is disgraceful. It's childish.
But Chris, I see that by showing that in that big screen behind him, see what happened to Sajid, and I'm actually proud about Sajid and Anura, who actually couldn't even stay there. He had to dash away. Actually, he didn't get beaten, but he couldn't stay there. There was a lot of opposition to him also. But I am glad that he showed it, because it shows that the people were non-participatory at that GGG place, because afterwards, whether if it was Sajid or Anura, people were not going to embrace him, give him a bouquet and embrace him.
You think if Rangi walked in there, he would have got a bouquet?
No, that's the thing. Even
If
to
Ranil
him,
had walked in there,
anybody, because the Aragalaya was a non-political thing. It is not a conspiracy. It clearly shows that it is not a conspiracy. Ranil actually disputed this book by showing that, if it was a conspiracy, then why the other political parties couldn't stay there? They all had to go leave. So but what I'm saying is, Ranil is showing the people that like him, who is complaining all over the country, going all over the world complaining, they burnt my house. Did Sajid Premadasa do that and say that the Aragalaya people destroyed my Range Rover? I think it was a Range Rover, windscreen and glass and everything. They stoned me, and he didn't do that. Did Anura complain? Didn't do that. Did Rajitha? We call him, Kata. I don't want to say the other word. Kata, even he didn't go complaining like that. But Ranil, like a small child, behaved like that. So he is an immature leader. He's an immature politician.
The conspiracy that he's talking about in the book is by the foreign countries. And he's talking about, I was listening to a person who was analyzing it. I have the book with me on the phone. Then he's talking about a foreign conspiracy and referring to an embassy. Referring to an embassy without naming it. Naming it. You can imagine what he's talking about. Whereas he was saying all the people around him were henchayas of that's conspiracy. And he was led to do certain things. And
he appointed those people.
Yeah, he is the very person who appointed them. He's the very person who appointed them. Then he also blamed Shamindra, no? Shamindra and
Kamal
Gunaratna.
There's a lot of blame to go around, but he doesn't look in the mirror, unfortunately. He's never seen himself in the mirror.
He blames them left, right and center, saying when he was in his house, when they came to attack him, they were all at a wedding. When we called, only one fellow came, the Muslim name, I can't remember the name, and nobody was given instructions to go to the lower level people for them to remove these. He said only 100 people. And then he goes, he's blaming the army. Shavindra.
He's blaming the army for not protecting him.
Not protecting
him.
Yes. And he said, and also not protecting the houses that were burning.
Right, yeah.
That all that was not, they were not given the protection.
I think, Andy, I don't think we should even give any oxygen to that. But I think it's important to understand what brought him into the presidency was again, exploiting the Easter bombings, the national security credentials, all of that. Right. That's where the conspiracies are.
Bring him to the parliament.
So to say a foreign power, these are boogeymen, right? Like Vimal Veeravansa is very famous for creating them, right? NGOs. NGO as a boogeyman was created by Vimal, right? Vimal created this NGO boogeyman, right? Foreign conspiracy, foreign embassies, all of that. But in the book synopsis, I've just highlighted the most important parts, and that's all you really need to know about this, He says, through conspiracies and mob violence sponsored by interested foreign parties. Then he mentions the LTTE twice in a short book synopsis. Manipulation of communal politics and the running down of the economy. This is what he's blaming for his demise. Who ran? So this is what I'm saying. This is an exercise in gaslighting. It's just a complete fiction. So I think it's important to point it out, but I don't think we should give oxygen to like whatever the hell is written in that.
About it. This is just humor, you know.
Yeah.
I was listening to their cousin, who is the ambassador for Ukraine. Udyanga was interviewed by Chamudita, and you know, for me it's very interesting listening. He said, how many books did he buy? He said he bought 5 books. He said, who is this? His brother, the guy who said, Basil was very, very angry about this book. And this Udyanga had gone to meet the ex-president, MR, and he said he had gone with the books. So he asked, did you give the book? No, I didn't give the book because I felt if had I given the book to him, I would have got slapped.
So even they're embarrassed about the book. Well, first of all, that guy should be in jail, not doing tourism.
Anyway, I'm looking forward to Vajira's book. Vajira is going to put up a book.
That's a cartoon.
Vajira is putting up a book about how Ranil Wickremesinghe...
It's a coloring book. Okay, you get a green crayon. That's all you get with that. So, okay, so that's all the slides we have. Do we have anything else that you want to talk about, Chris? Since we haven't done this in a while, shall we let him remind us?
That's fine.
No, let's do it. We have time. We can take 5 minutes.
No, I think more important than that. Okay, but why don't we talk about the importance of the election and that we need to have this election, right?
Yeah.
There's no, you know, whatever changing this presidential system or this electoral system that may be, but the main thing is to have the election, right? And then nothing should get in that way. Right?
And the other thing I would like to add to that is for the presidential election, nobody is going to get 51%. And your second preference has you have to make sure you do
very
not.
important.
You're very
Yes.
critical that you do not put the.
I think it was Namal who mentioned it, right? On not Namal. I mean Namal.
Another Namal.
Yes, on Twitter. But that is a very important point.
Your second preference, please do not.
Yeah, I mean,
put
basically-
the puppets' names down.
Basically, if you want to
Need
vote
to
for
come down to the
SJB,
wire.
Can you put the same person as your first and second preference? No, it has to be a different name.
I don't think so.
Different name.
Yeah.
Has
So
to be-
1, 2, 3 or 1, 2?
2, no?
Three.
Okay.
Even for the presidential, you have 3 preferences?
Okay. So first preference, if you're going to vote SJB, second preference NPP. Or the other way around, if it's first preference
vice
NPP, vote for SJB second. That is
should be
very
the
important.
message. That should be
That is
the
very
message.
important.
Yeah.
Something that I also didn't realize until it was pointed out.
Yeah.
So that is very important. And ensure, keep speaking about not if we have election, we are having this election.
Yes.
This
Not
has
an
to
if,
happen.
it's we are.
There's no if, we have to have this. Don't forget, the local government election was postponed and conveniently forgotten about thereafter, even after Supreme Court ruling.
But
saying
you
to
have an
release the funds.
advisor on local government.
Sorry?
You have an advisor to the president on the payroll that we are paying for.
Ah, really?
Advisor to the president on local government.
Yeah, so we need to ensure that this election is held because it's enough we have tolerated this, I think we have. So some of the things that we have tolerated, shall I speak about this? Okay. Some of these, okay, let's look at these scams. People's Bank, 54 billion in bad loans is informed to the public by Shanak and Rasamanikam when he read out the COPE findings some time ago. This 54 billion is by the top 20. In these, there are some very, very well-known business houses, well-known people. Why is this not being recovered? How has the bank given these loans sans collateral? Right? How can that happen? I mean, if we, medium-scale businessmen, try to go and get a loan, we have to have an asset backing it. Sometimes on an asset valuation, you only get about 70%. How have these guys got loans in billions without assets? Right? The bond scam was 19.5 billion rupees in 2015, 9 years ago. To date, there's no one responsible.
I don't think there's even a single person under investigation right now.
Yeah,
Everybody
to date, there's
connected
no one.
has been released from the
There's
case.
no one responsible. And we see people who are related to the bond scam, people like Ravi Karunayaka back again. I mean, they're talking
Well,
about...
he was on the ULP stage,
Right.
right? The same meeting that you were talking about. He was on the stage.
There's a sugar scam. Now there are two sugar scams. One which happened under Gotabaya Rajapaksa's presidency. That is 16 billion in 2020, 4 years ago. And another one happened under Ranil Wickremesinghe's presidency, 1 billion rupees. Right? But that's also a billion, right? In a country that's bankrupt, I think even 100 billion is a big deal, right? Garlic scam 3 years ago. Trade Minister was Bandula Gunawardena. Interior cooking gas, which resulted in explosion and damage and killing damages to property and losing 7 lives 3 years ago. Import of low quality fuel and insufficient quantities of fuel, which led to people dying in fuel queues. Import of substandard fertilizer from China and having to pay $6.9 million as compensation 3 years ago. Express Pearl disaster. We had our justice minister who we were famously talking about how somebody accepted a bribe and things like that. To date, nothing, right? Then we had our justice minister should be ashamed, right? I mean, even a non-qualified person to say this should be ashamed. As a president's counsel, I don't know what he's talking when he says, we have found incidences where, police custody, I think drugs.
Planting drugs.
Drugs have turned into flour. Right? We need to investigate it. We don't know how it has happened. How can the Minister of Justice say this? And then what you said, Lisha, about it's common knowledge or this happens, we have to acknowledge that policemen plant drugs. And this is the Minister of Justice.
Didn't you also make a claim about some bribe?
Yeah, that's what I just mentioned.
Right?
I mean, so they're just statements that they come out with. So many people, I think, recently were talking about Kanchan Ratnapala. Wow, he spoke about that, that corruption in the CPC. Under that computer system, false entries.
But then it's Ali Sabri's brother who is
that is also true. But what is happening? I mean, are these guys is this a shock value? They come out and say, oh, this crime has happened, and then all goes silent. And people, I don't want to use a word that I want to use, they were like, wow, look at this, he's bringing up corruption. He's talking about it, yes.
And nothing
but nothing's happening, right? So let's not forget that. The thing is, these guys come up with these things. I think they're supposed to create shock value, newspaper articles, even all these 3 things that I mentioned about Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, he got headline news. Right? So, I mean, everybody thinks he's doing a big thing, but thereafter it's forgotten. Then they go back into oblivion. Right? Then killings and disappearances of people. We're just talking about a few only. Right? Richard D'Souza in 1990. It's what? 10, 30, 42 years. Right? No, 32 years. No one is responsible. Lasantha Wickrematunge, 2009. No one is responsible. Who is Lasantha? We had a president ask. Who is Lasantha? When a foreign journalist asked him. Prageet Teknaligura disappeared in 2010. Don't forget, this is a country that devotes 539 billion rupees towards defense and public security, while deciding that education needs only 200 billion, health needs only 300 billion. So after all this money spent, we cannot account for these, there's no closure for these things. Keith Noya, assaulted in 2008. Wasim Tajuddin, killed 11 years ago. Dinesh Shafter, a prominent businessman, killed in December 2022, over 1 year ago, right? And this is happening to a prominent businessman, you can forget about the rest of us, right? What happens to them, Easter attack. 269 lives were lost, almost 5 years ago. We had a president, as soon as he was made acting president, publicly he said, we are willing to even get Scotland Yard to investigate. Subsequent to becoming president a few months later, just about, I think, 3 months ago in Germany, when Deutsche Welle interviewed him, he said, no more foreign investigations. No more foreign investigations. So, it is obvious that although he said when he was appointed, and a foreign journalist asked him, are you a friend of the Rajapaksas? I think Sky News. He said, no. You get your facts correct. I'm not a friend of the Rajapaksas, I'm a friend of the people. Who are you to come and ask me this question? It is obvious to anybody, even to these people who we call now Ranil washers, who continue to see the wrong he does and yet continue to whitewash him, right? He's definitely a friend of the Rajapaksas and he's no friend of the people. That is absolutely, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah. I think when it comes to Ranil, you have to watch what he does and not what he says.
You mentioned that before, so yes,
many
times,
very
true.
Many times.
So, I mean, no friend of the people would ensure that the entire burden of this domestic debt restructure would be borne by the working class and nothing by the banking sector. I mean, that type of person does not have the right to come and moral right to come and say that he's a friend of the people, right? And I mean, all these crimes, right? I mean, like you, I think you who say, I mean, I'm quoting you.
Crimes.
That's, I'm quoting you, a country of crimes with no criminals, right? So I think people need to decide. Remember these things, because we are a country that forgets in 2 weeks. A cricket match comes, we forget about all this. We need to remember this thing. And when the time comes for the elections, we need to vote very carefully.
Thanks, Chris. So, since we don't have any other topic to go to, let's wind up with Lisha's quote.
So I have two quotes again this week. First one is, when the rule of law disappears, we are ruled by the whims of men. Which is
100%.
And the second one is, justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are. That's Benjamin Franklin.
I think that pretty much sums up what we were talking about earlier, right? Like we have these two countries that we were talking about. So guys, thank you so much, Chirantha, Lisha, Chris, Annie Mowbray, and all of you. Actually, next week, I'm not there, but you guys are going to continue.
I'm also not there.
Right? You guys are going to continue, but
I already said that.
but please tune in because we have a very important guest.
Yes.
That's Gihan Gunatilaka from Human Rights Commission. And then the week after, we have another special guest lined up. That's Natasha Idrisuriya. Her case was actually in courts today, but as usual, case was postponed, so there's no resolution. So let's maybe adjust her date as and when. We are hoping to get TISL as well. So all of those things are in the works. And I think we should also get Mrs. Sumandiran, don't you think?
Definitely.
You know,
It's the same question, Ramin. The same question. Because now I think people are going on attacking Iran.
Yeah.
So I think those people need to hear it from Sumantri, and Sumantri is not going to be as kind as Iran was.
We should get Sumandiram to get the right people, find out Sumandiram.
Yeah, in fact, we are reaching out. Worst case scenario, we'll reach out to Chanakya and see if we can, get him through that. So thank you. I think that's a wrap for us on day 263 at GGY. So we will be back at the street corner on Sunday, 264, and back here next Wednesday for the round table. But that's it tonight. Good night. Thank you.